Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we're going to be talking about diversity and inclusion with a nationally known expert. He developed this game. It's also a learning tool. It's called the Race Card. We'll explain next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, as of the last couple years, when you say diversity and inclusion, it becomes very polarizing. People instantly make up their mind what that means. And so to sort out fact from fiction, I've brought in a nationally known expert. His name is Kelvin Goss. He's the creator of this game. It's called You Played the Race Card. Kelvin, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me. It's an honor.
Absolutely. Well, let's start at the very beginning. So when did you start your company?
Yeah, in 2017.
Okay. And what was the impetus?
You know, at that time, my mom had passed, and I wanted to leave a legacy behind. She taught school for 40 years. She developed Alzheimer's, and I was just so impressed when at her funeral when I had her students and fellow teachers came around and said, hey, your mom was so impactful in what she poured into us. So I was like, wow, you know, I'm the last Goss in our family.
Wow.
So I wanted to leave something behind that we existed and we made a positive impact. So I decided to write this book, Be Brilliant in the Basics.
And I want to give you a chance to give a shout out to your mentor, because this is a very prominent person.
Absolutely. Sharon Orlock, in 2012, I had the privilege to hear a keynote speaking event here in Dallas. And she was the Chief Diversity Officer for Walmart. So at the end of her presentation, I was honored to be sitting at her table. We built a relationship that day in 2012, and she decided to take me under her wing and help me really truly understand the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion and how it tied to business results. So I thank you, Sharon, for all the years of support from a mentor-mentee perspective. She's been phenomenal and inspired my life, and we just had so many commonalities. Her mom, her mother-in-law, and my mom were in the same nursing home. So we would meet on the weekends and even spend quality time there.
That's really cool. We're going to pull up your website, and as we scroll down the website, you have a very successful speaking training career, and we can see some of your clients. Tell us about audiences that you love to speak to.
You know, I love to speak to any audience, any organization that is focused on how inclusion drives business results. And it's been my experience from looking at some great CEOs that when they truly put culture first, then their business outcomes were more robust.
Yes, and I mentioned off the top of the show, there's a lot of thoughts people come up with instantly. They have you noticed that they just take sides and they don't even know where you're coming from. So let's sort out fact from fiction. When you think of a diversity and inclusion, what comes to mind for you?
You know, Jeff, for me, I love research, and I encourage anyone to be curious and not just take what they may hear in a snapshot or a blurb, but take the time to do your personal research before you really start to weigh in with a heavy opinion. And for me, what I really appreciate about that, I took the time to be certified in diversity, equity, and inclusion through Cornell, and I learned some really great aspects of what's often missed or might be kind of like an iceberg underneath the bottom of the iceberg. So I say that to this effect, is that if individuals would take the time when they hear DE&I, instead of looking at that like in retrospect, like, did he say he had COVID-19 backing away? Well, DEI is not a bad word. I encourage you to be curious. And I say that because when you think in terms of DEI, it's not focused solely on a race or an ethnicity. Most people probably think it means black or white. But if they dig into that, there's a lot of aspects that goes with DE&I that's benefited a lot of people, whether that's disabilities that made better work environments for individuals who may have disabilities, or if an individual was needing a special circumstance, like they served in the military and were having a hard time finding work. A lot of organizations had initiatives to focus on veteran hiring. All falls up under DE&I. And you think about even a person who may become pregnant. protected classes, et cetera. All those things are under DE&I. And if you really, take the time to dig into the internet and say, rank out who's benefited from it, I think it's eye-opening.
Really? You were sharing before the show, so if you do that search result, what comes up?
Yeah, I think if you think it kind of solely focuses on race, you'll be shocked to find who benefited the most. I think Afro-Americans or blacks are somewhere around 5th or 6th on the ranking of DE&I.
Wow.
And regarding benefited.
Okay, now let's go to the race card game, because I think it's absolutely brilliant, and we're going to show a little bit of a video that you created, a YouTube video, and so we're going to show a little bit of that as we talk about this. What was the inspiration for the game?
Sure. So I noticed in 2020, Jeff, is that people were playing more games. And then when I would go into large retail chains to just walk the aisles during the pandemic, many people were purchasing these games, and I was like, adults learn differently.
Yeah.
So how can you really help adults to have fun while they learn about a subject as important as diversity, equity, and inclusion? So at that time, I thought about my experience. I've been an operator where I was over a business unit and a P&L. I've worked in HR. And when I was in HR full time, people would knock on the door and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you. I have an issue. This person is playing a race card." And I said, you know what? I've heard that so many times. I want to take that negative connotation and flip it into a positive. So I decided one of the ways that I thought adults could learn best is through a game entitled You Played the Race Card, and put institutional knowledge around individuals, fact-based data that helps you have a little better, robust mindset around what is DE&I. You asked me a question around diversity and inclusion. Diversity is a fact. Inclusion is an act. So when we act in an inclusive way, our life, our businesses, our school systems will all see better results when we can create environments where everyone feel like they can thrive.
Agreed. And you pulled out 3 cards from the deck, and we should point out that this is a playing card deck. You could play poker or whatever you want to play.
Yeah, you can play Go Fish, whatever is your favorite card game.
So go ahead and hold those up.
Yeah, I have 3 series.
Sure.
So this series is the Women's Equality Series.
Okay.
This is series number 3. And for example, the King of Diamonds, we have Sheryl Sandberg. And you hear her name, you kind of know who she is. But these cards are designed to peel back those layers and see the value of the impact they potentially made, not only maybe in our nation, across the world, with some of their thought processes. It says, her positive impact on society. Sheryl Sandberg is the founder of leanin.org. It talks about her organization. It was dedicated to offering women the ongoing inspiration and support to help them achieve their goals. So this is just one example of a card. And then you got, 3 of clubs. It says, where and when was the earliest known female physician documented? So if you were to play this card in the game, you'd pause when you're at whatever your favorite card game might be, read the card, have great dialogue around it. We just did a test with this at a college in Nashville, and it was amazing to see the students have so much quality dialogue. The answer to this, the earliest known female physician lived in ancient Egypt around 2700 BCE.
Wow.
You probably wouldn't know that.
No, that's beautiful.
And then you got the Queen of Hearts, which is Melanie Hobson. Her positive impact on society, 94th on the 2020 Forbes list of the world's 100 most influential women. What an amazing opportunity to learn a little bit about someone who we may not know as well and can embrace all ethnicities, cultures, experiences, and backgrounds.
You have a great analogy about brown shoes. Would you share that with me?
Yeah, oftentimes people will ask me, well, what's the difference between equity and equality? And I like to use the analogy. So if you worked in an organization and you pulled everybody in a room and you gave them a pair of brown shoes, that's equality. But in that room of all these different unique individuals, if you were to ask them, what size shoe do you wear, Jeff? What's your favorite color? Let me get you that shoe. More than likely, you would feel more inspired, more engaged, that I was in a position as a leader to notice your individual needs.
Yes.
So now we could go truly build innovative thought and mindsets that really will change the game. So when we think about equity and equality, that's the best example I could give you.
All right, without naming the company, what's one of your favorite success stories?
Yeah, you know what? There are 2 large HR organizations that are nationally known. One of my favorite success stories is the Human Resource Certification Institute in Washington, D.C., or Alexandria, Virginia. And the CEO, Amy Dufresne, she put her money where her mouth was. So her entire organization as we think about this transformation of how to help organizations really lean into inclusion and belonging, she reached out. We developed a training. She allowed me to help build curriculum for an entire organization that's one of the most certified credentials in regarding certifications for people development. And she trained her entire organization and allowed me to be part of that training at the HRCI Institute in Alexandria, Virginia. So she didn't just say, hey, I want to create change in my organization. She wanted every single person who worked in her business org to go through this learning of abstract inclusive leadership. And what I was amazed about is she went through it herself and even had her chairman of the board, Andre Allen, go through it as well.
Nice. You also wrote a best-selling book, The Brilliant in the Basics, and we've got a full-screen graphic that we'll put up. Tell us about this book.
Yeah, so in this book, it's kind of heavily weighted towards retail, but I tried to put tenets and have the opportunity to speak in terms that you could take and leverage in any organization regarding leadership behaviors. What I've found is most people will join organizations, but they will leave leaders. And when you think in terms, what does that really mean? Well, when leaders highlight on a daily basis consistent behaviors that align with what the mission, vision, value says on the walls in their company, you see great things happen. So I had the privilege to work at some Fortune 5s. I really tried to position myself to see what were the best characteristics of those leaders in those Fortune 5 organizations, put it in a brief book in 128 pages, and really allow any leader that's in retail or organization to say, can I abstract these gems and be a better leader on a daily basis? If you're a people leader, I see that as a privilege.
Yes.
And it's an honor. And you should treat those individuals you work with or that work for you in a manner that they know you see them more than just a social security number.
And when you come into a company and do some training, are there some aha moments that people have what's your coaching style? What's your training style?
Yeah, I enjoy helping leaders utilize metrics to look at their culture. So there's many things. If you were going to join a company today, you might go on Glassdoor. You might look at the engagement scores of the organization. You might see what the company brand is. What's their corporate social responsibility look like to the community? What are they doing for the environment? All those things kind of come into play because there's 5 generations, actually 6, in the workplace today. Now, can you imagine? You got 6 generations, and then you're trying to create a training development plan and an engagement plan for 6 generations. So you have X, and then you have millennials, you have Zs, and then you have baby boomers, and then you have traditionalists. And I don't know if you saw the movie Ghostbusters.
Yeah, sure.
The new one?
Yeah.
So Ernie Hudson's 78 in that movie.
Wow.
So think back when he first started. So now in the newest movie, he's 78. Can you imagine someone who's 20 years old on the same set and they're trying to work together and have conversation, and this person might be saying, hey, Snapchat me what you want me to do. And Ernie's saying, well, write it on a piece of paper.
Right.
So you have to understand these generational gaps. And then there's a new one called Alpha that's being introduced. And organizations that get it are building workplaces around all of those aspects of inclusion, whether that's generational gaps that they need to solve for. And for me, when I see organizations that put that first, then typically you'll see good bottom lines.
Wow. Congratulations on your success. We've got about a minute left, so final thoughts. Look into that camera on the left and talk to that CEO who is on the fence about whether or not to reach out to you.
I would say to any CEO, my personal mantra is compassion without action is just observation. But compassion with action is the equation for observable change. If you truly want to drive your bottom line, start with your people.
Powerful. Great way to end the show. We'll also leave you with the website, which is bebrilliantinthebasics.com. The great Kelvin Goss. Thanks for coming on the show.
Excited to be here. Thank you. It's an honor.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.